problem continue to fester like that in a rich country like that, and they went in and tried to change it. Okay, that was a strategic decision. But don't tell me there was no provocation when the other side didn't observe one commitment they made in the supposed ceasefire. What are you laughing at?
I'm laughing because if it was, you said rich country, and if it was Ethiopia or Uganda, we
well,
would
that's not a threat.
even
But that's, what are you talking about? They went into Kosovo and they helped that situation. They went into Bosnia. These are not rich countries.
Rwanda.
Come on, that was a democratic administration
What
anyway.
I'm trying to tell you is that if you want to sell us war, you got to sell it to us in a way that
They
we
didn't.
are noble.
No, you know, you're just a new leftist from back in the '70s that has been revived, and you're enjoying the fact that you can be as negative as you want about this country.
I'm also a bit of a neocon because I think that capitalism holds the promise to be the greatest new tradition on this planet.
I'm sorry I put this open to.
So which one am I? Am I the warmonger or am I the peacemonger?
What do you mean warmonger? I didn't say you're a warmonger. I said you were new left, ideologue.
No, I said I'm a warmonger. Because
you're not a warmonger.
I believe in capitalism and I believe in the neoconservative
effort. What's that got to do with capitalism, warmonger?
Well,
just all this is slogans.
It all has to do with capitalism. It all has to do with what we're trying to do.
Well, why don't we just resign our culture and not have a free enterprise system? Let's go and get Stalin over here and so on.
That's hardly what I'm.
Well, I'm saying, you know, this is a system that you've been bequeathed.
No, I'm telling you that capitalism is, if you had listened, I told you that I'm totally on board with capitalism as the probably most positive globalizing force that we have at our disposal as a human species.
We're way off the point in this book. I will say one thing. When you say we had no right to go into Iraq, we didn't go into Iraq when all the things were broken because we were like, it would have taken too big an effort, and we didn't, and we were looked like on as a paper tiger after that. But when we were provoked with this thing, so they took the opportunity to say, look guys, this is what we're going to do to people who don't observe their treaty obligations. And they thought they could deal with it there, and it was a misassessment.
But it looks crappy, guys.
Strategic misassessments always look
bad, man. I mean, you got.
I would love to have you during the Civil War with Lincoln. You'd have been great. You know, he lost battle after battle. Thousands upon thousands, hundreds of thousands of Union soldiers were killed. You'd have been out there saying, oh, misassessment, you know, strategic mistake, all this kind of stuff. You'd have had this guy strung up. No, Truman was the most unpopular president we had. He had 29% popularity rating. Everyone thought he was the worst person. Now he's considered one of the best presidents we ever had. So, you know, I don't think Bush is ever going to raise to that. I would agree with you. But the point is that your point here is what the naysayers say in every situation when things are going bad. Oh, things are going bad. You had no right to do this, blah, 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 blah. Look, maybe they shouldn't have done it. But you have to give them the right. You have not the right, the respect to think they did it for motives that were decent.
And if they had respected the American public enough to make us, to at least consider that we have some intellect, and sell it to us in a way that we feel like we're Lincoln marching into Iraq, then we would be all
on board. Oh, you think it's wrong to take Saddam, a brutal killer, out if we could do it?
No, but I think it's wrong to make it...
Who were paying suicide bombers $45,000 a family in Israel? For everyone that would go and blow themselves up. So you think that's a bad thing? That's a noble act.
Sure. So let's talk about about 20 wars in Africa going on right now, and let's talk about why we're not being noble and going.
If you would go into Africa, they would call you a colonialist. You can't go into.
What are we in Iraq?
That's not. You were provoked in Iraq. There was a treaty.
Barely. Come on, man.
Oh well, okay. We should let Saddam stay there, brutalize people, have his sons doing the kind of thing.
Well, it's happening in Africa. What difference does it make?
Personally, I think we were cowardly not to do it way back in 1990 when Bush 1 did it.
And so we had a much better reason to be there, right?
It's no different. He didn't observe any of the things. He killed all the Kurds, killed all the Shiites and everything.
I shouldn't say much better reason, but we had a lot more public support for that.
No, because you were on an upswing there, as Shakespeare put it best.
And that's when you really got to do it. You got to get us when happy days are here again. And if you're not able to sell us that, then we're not going to.
I don't want to sell you anything. I can't sell you anything. Shakespeare said, "There's a time taken in the affairs of men that, when taken at its crest, leads on to fortune, and then when you miss that time, leads on to disaster." Unfortunately, in the first Iraq War, we missed the crest. We didn't do what should have been done. I can see you blaming us for that. We treated Iraq like a third-rate country. We didn't want to bring American democracy there. We said, screw you people, kill yourselves, we've saved the oil. Basically, that's all we did. We let them pay us off to send our troops there. That's much more sinful than what Bush Jr. has done. Bush Jr. tried to do something decent and just didn't have the wherewithal or force or insight to do it properly. But I think Bush père was much more guilty than Bush Jr. And having observed the whole thing, and I think I was a mature person through the whole thing, and you were probably still a teenager at that time.
Yeah, I was 18.
So, you know. Anyway, let's come back to medicine. I won't take your point in terms of, I think the endeavor in Iraq is a noble endeavor gone wrong because they didn't pursue it in a determined enough, powerful enough, aggressive enough manner.
Well, they needed
just
a
try to
better
do it on
PR
the
guy.
cheap. What?
Because I would love to think that it was noble.
Well, because it's totally, obviously noble. I mean, if you can't see nobility, you can't see nobility in resisting monstrous dictators, then I don't see what you can see.
Well, then go to Africa, and then I'll get on board
What's
with you
Africa
guys.
got to do with it?
People are dying by the tens of thousands.
Oh, well, that's
It's
America's
exactly-
fault, that they're dying by the tens of thousands? Are these people threatening to blow up the World Trade Center?
How about the 45,000 people that starve to death on a daily basis? Why don't we do
Oh, it
something
is
about
a
that?
sinful thing that the UN doesn't go into Darfur, but that's again a fear of Islamic extremism.
Well, are we going to be afraid or are we going to be leaders?
All right.
And if we're going to be leaders, why is it just Iraq?
All right,
Is it
we
'cause
can
it's
convince the UN to go into Darfur.
Iraqi liberation?
We've been trying to convince the UN to go into Darfur.
Oh,
And
I'm
everyone
sure.
in this country knows that not going into the Congo was a mistake and that it should have been done. But that doesn't mean that America is the only country that made that mistake. The whole world stood by.
No, but
And the Europeans, what do they ever do? Nothing, 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 nothing.
But
And they've got more population, they've got almost 1 billion people in Europe, and they're all unified. And who do they give money to, and what do they do? Nothing.
But
So
what you're
okay.
saying is that it's a noble effort, and I'm saying I would love to think that.
Well, it is
Show
a
me-
noble effort. I don't care what you're saying. It's a noble effort gone wrong. I don't care what all your liberal friends say. It's a noble effort gone wrong. You give these people no decency. You think Bush is just a rotter. You think all those people around him are just rotters. This is really insulting. And this is what goes on, that you guys think that these people are just criminally rotten people. There are people who, you know, he can make mistakes.
Well, let's talk
We're going
about
to say
Joe
Lincoln
Depp.
is a criminally rotten person because he didn't get the Civil War going correctly until 1864. Is Truman a criminally rotten person because he muffed the Korean War thing and let the nukes spread everywhere? You know, I mean, what are you talking about? These people, you have to give them some a sense of decency.
I'm talking about this. I'll ask you this. Are George Bush, Caspar Weinberger, Ronald Reagan, and George Shultz all noble because once they were